And the answer was no. I don't want to sit on my couch by myself. I don't want to miss the stuff that's going on in the community. So, what if we're not going to be friends for the next 10 years? I can have someone to hang out with for the next 6 months. That's fine. People can bless your life for a reason. It could be a passing reason. It could be a season, and that might be 6 months or whatever time you are at that base, or it could be for a lifetime. And quite frankly, you don't know.
Welcome to More Than a Milspouse, the podcast for military spouses who want to live with more meaning and less overwhelm. I'm your host, Christine, seasoned military spouse, mom of 3, life coach, and your guide to intentionally designing a life you're excited about as a military spouse. I'm here to help you get the clarity you need so you can get unstuck and unlock your purpose and potential. Because you, my friend, are more than a milspouse. You have something valuable to offer. And when you pursue the things that light your heart on fire, you trade frustration for fulfillment and isolation for a life of impact. It's time to discover who you are meant to be, because together we can change the world. Welcome back to More Than a Milspouse, the podcast for military spouses who want to love their lives without losing themselves. Today, we're talking about something that almost every military spouse thinks about, but few of us feel truly confident navigating: friendship. My guest today is Cecilia Curtis, host of the Heart of Friendship podcast, a military spouse who has lived the reality of building and saying goodbye to friendships over and over again. In this conversation, we talk about why making friends feels so hard in military life, how constant moves shape the way we connect, and what actually helps relationships move from surface level to deeply meaningful. If you've ever wondered whether it's worth trying to make friends when you know you'll move again soon, or you felt lonely even when you're surrounded by people, this episode is for you. So here's my conversation with Cecilia Curtis. Today's guest is Cecilia Curtis, host of the Heart of Friendship podcast, which is all about helping women build stronger relationships with other women. She is also a recently retired military spouse, and I'm so excited for this conversation because I know just how challenging building and maintaining friendships can be for military spouses. So, Cecilia, welcome to More Than a Milspouse.
Hi, Christine. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. So before we dig into all things friendship, I would love to hear your military spouse story. What was your introduction to this lifestyle like?
I had no idea what I was getting into. And I know people don't believe that because my husband and I had dated for 5 years. He was in ROTC. I was actually in ROTC with him the first year, and I quickly decided that the military life was not for me. I was like, I'm not about that life. I'm not moving all over. I'm not going to war. Just count me out of all of it. But I loved him, and we just kept dating. And before I knew it, we were married. And I knew that I was going to be part of the military community, but I still wasn't prepared for the realities of that. I wasn't fully prepared to move hundreds of miles away the second after I said I do, which is basically what happened. I wasn't prepared when they said, now you're going to Japan. I was like, what do you mean we're going to Japan? I can't move to Japan, you know? But I ended up loving the life, but it definitely had its challenges, but I loved the military life. I can say that now from the other side. I love our life. I really do.
So looking back now, what did you love most about the lifestyle, and what were the biggest challenges for you?
What I loved most is super easy. Two things: the people and the travel. So the people, I mean, I grew up in Delaware. I'm from Delaware, and I don't know why. I just always thought I was going to move around. I think God kind of prepared my heart for who I was going to marry, but I never felt like I was going to live in Delaware forever. But I wasn't prepared for all the amazing people I would meet along my journey. I went everywhere. Every single move I went kicking and screaming. But when I got there, I fell in love with the people. Whether it was in Ohio or Japan or Germany, wherever it was, I fell in love with the people. And that's why I left kicking and screaming because everywhere we lived, I was like, I love my people. I can't leave my people. So definitely the people, that's what I loved most, I would say number one. And then number two, the travel. I mean, again, I'm from Delaware and somehow I've been all these places because of the military. And I know people think the military people move around a lot, but we had some really great assignments. I mean, people are scared to go overseas, but if you have a chance, go overseas. I think about our time when we were in Germany and how we could just pick up. We didn't have kids at the time, but we would just pick up and be in like France for the weekend. We would be in Spain for the weekend. And I don't know, it was just such an amazing time and an amazing season in my life. I loved it. I loved everything about it, quite frankly. I did.
I mean, this is like goals. I would love to go to Europe so I could go explore all of Europe.
Yeah.
And it was so funny to me because, I married my husband thinking, I'm going to go see the world. And then for the first, 12, 15 years of his career, we only got assignments in the central time zone. And so I
Oh,
was like,
wow.
come on, let's go see the world. And
Yeah.
then we finally get the overseas assignment. We're going to Guam and it's the middle of COVID and we're not allowed to travel. But since that time, we have gotten to live in Hawaii. We've gotten to do some traveling. If you get the opportunity to go to an assignment that feels far away, I know that feels daunting, but take advantage of those opportunities
Yeah.
because I think about, you know, I don't know how many more years we will be in this lifestyle, but it's going to be so much harder to go see some of these places and do some of these things when we're no longer a part of the military. And so I love that you really took advantage of getting to connect with people and getting to take all of those opportunities to travel. So, what is it like now being on that other side? We always have these ideas in our head about what life after military life is going to look and feel like. What has that been like for you?
It's been good, but I'll be honest, it hasn't been much of a transition for us. And I'll tell you why. It's just that my husband's final assignment is where we decided to stay. So there wasn't that sense of like, this is our last move, and now we're starting this new adventure somewhere else. I mean, for us, it was kind of, we did have a gigantic party. He had a gigantic party, and then he went to work somewhere else on Monday. Like the party was on Friday, the ceremony was on Friday. And then he just went somewhere else on Monday. Things that I love about the new life. I love my husband's new haircut. Not gonna lie. He's done something that he hasn't done in 20 years with his hair. And I love his new goatee. I love a man with facial hair. And he finally has the goatee that I've been dreaming about for 22 years, Christine. So those are the things that I love about. I mean, maybe that sounds silly, but I would only get a peek of his goatee when we were on vacation, and now I just live with his goatee every day. So I love that. I'm really thankful that there are no more exercises, no more TDYs, those things that are just super disruptive to our lives as military spouses. I'm thankful that that season is over. And I'm thankful that most of my friends are here to stay. I do have two military friends still because we live in a base community who are still active duty and they're going to be PCSing probably in the next 6 or 7 months. So that makes me feel sad. But for the most part, my other friends I know are here to stay, and I'm not going to have to go out looking for friends again in another year. That's what I love.
I mean, that is an excellent lead into what we're talking about today because we're really talking about these military spouse friendships. And you've started the Heart of Friendship podcast. So let's talk about friendship. Regardless of whether you're in the military or not, making friends can be tough. Why is it that you think so many people struggle to form meaningful connections?
I think there are lots of different reasons, and the reasons are sometimes different for different people. One, I think we're all just so busy. And even if we don't have really great reasons to be busy, we're still so busy. We're staring at our phones, which keeps us disengaged. We're not looking around to see the amazing people who are sometimes sitting right next to us. We're staring at our phones. Sometimes we're overcommitted. We have our kids in travel sports. We're out every weekend so that we don't miss anything that we saw cool happening on social media. Well, maybe we just need to slow down and make space for these relationships that are meant to enrich our lives. So I think this busyness and the chasing a busy lifestyle, thinking we're missing out on something when really what we're missing out on is like the beauty of just being still and the beauty of being present with people around us. I think that's part of what keeps us all from having these real relationships. Fear of vulnerability, I think, is another one. I honestly don't always know what is happening with this fear of vulnerability. People sometimes know a lot of people, but they're afraid to connect on a deeper level with them. People think they need to connect on a deeper level, but it starts with someone being willing to share something that's maybe a little bit deeper, maybe something that's a little more reflective of who they are as a person. We're also guarded. And I don't always know why we're guarded. I mean, sometimes for good reasons. Sometimes we've been hurt by other people, or sometimes there's this illusion of perfection, whether it's on social media or how people present themselves in real life. There's this illusion of perfection, and you think, well, that person's perfect, and I don't have myself together, so I can't share all of my imperfections. I can't be vulnerable with this person. But we don't realize the other person is thinking the exact same thing. The other person is thinking, well, I wish she would approach me and I wish someone would be nice to me and kind to me. Oh, but I don't want to share who I really am. So there are all these different things going on. For you and me, it's things like we move every year. Well, when you're moving all the time, you're connecting and disconnecting. Sometimes you don't want to be that connected because you're like, I'm just going to leave them again in 6 months. I'm just going to leave them again in a year. But sometimes those are really great relationships. Like one of my best friends is someone who I met at the end of my husband's assignment. And we just clicked, we hit it off, and we've stayed friends all these years. It would have been easy for me to say, well, I only have 6 months left here. I don't need any new friends. So there are all these reasons, but a lot of us feel that we're the only ones, but we're not. We're definitely not the only ones.
No, we're not. And I really like how you brought up this idea of making friends even when you're going to be there for a short amount of time, because that is something that I've struggled with in my own life because I know, hey, I'm only going to be here for 10 months or a year or 2 years. Is it worth it to go out there to invest in it? And conceptually, we know that we can make those relationships and they can turn into lifelong friendships. But there's always something that we tell ourselves that this is not important. So, what strategies have you used to remind yourself that yes, it's worth the effort, even if you're not going to be somewhere for a long time?
I would say the biggest strategy, and I'm putting myself in the military spouse mindset for a second. The biggest strategy for me was sitting on my couch and being like, do I really just want to sit on the couch the whole time I'm here? And the answer was no. I don't want to sit on my couch by myself. I don't want to miss the stuff that's going on in the community. So, what if we're not going to be friends for the next 10 years? I can have someone to hang out with for the next 6 months. That's fine. People can bless your life for a reason. It could be a passing reason. It could be a season, and that might be 6 months or whatever time you are at that base. Or it could be for a lifetime. And quite frankly, you don't know. You don't know until you're looking back on your life and saying, well, I thought we were going to be friends for just that month, but it turned out we've been friends since second grade. Like, you don't really know until you're looking back. So I say go for it. For me, it was just the sense that honestly, my husband worked a lot. And it was either get out there and make some friends or be miserable everywhere we lived. And I chose the get out and make some friends route.
As much as it is challenging, I can look back now and say that some of my closest friends in this military life have come from the shortest assignments because
Yes.
everybody's in this place where like we're not here for a long period of time. Let's dive in, let's connect, let's go deep. Even though I haven't seen some of those friends in person for years, we still have these close connections. And it started by being willing to say, hey, let's do something. Let's get out of the house. Let's get together. I opened my house and I hosted coffee dates and said, hey, if you want to come over, I'll make you a cup of coffee. I'll make you a latte. Let's get to know each other. And it made a big difference. And I've maintained those relationships through the years. How do you feel like being a military spouse has shaped the way that you view friendship? Because, we have people from all different perspectives that have views on friendship. And I have looked at and read books on friendship. And there are some books that I read that I'm like, this person has no idea what it's like to try to make friendships as an adult who moves a lot. So I know that all of us, the life that we've lived influences our perspectives. And so, how has being a military spouse really influenced the way that you view friendships?
Well, I think that's such a loaded question. My mind is racing with where to go first. I think for starters, you said sometimes because you're in the military community, your best friends, you make them quickly, you have to go deep quickly. I honestly think that thing alone, I did a whole episode on that last year. I think that is unique to military culture and the military community. You're only somewhere for a short period of time, so you're forcing these relationships. Like either we're going to be friends or we're not, but I need to know in the next month. That's kind of how it feels in some cases. But I think that's kind of conditioned me to lean in a little more deeply with friends who are not military. Now that I'm later in my life and outside of the military community, I think I do lean in more deeply and ask some of those questions a little bit sooner and share a little bit more myself a little bit sooner than some people who didn't live that life, because that's what worked for me as a military spouse. I'm like, I'm only going to see you 2 more times before you PCS. We got to make it work. If there's this sense of urgency that I don't know that everyone else has about friendship. So that's one thing. Another is that I really truly came to appreciate diversity in a whole new way as a military spouse. And I don't want to sound corny or cliche, but there's a diversity that exists in the military that I haven't seen anywhere else, quite frankly. And then there's the sense of moving different places. I know what it feels like to be an American not living in the United States. And I know how welcoming other countries have been to me. And I know how I was able to form friendships with people who weren't speaking English as a first language. I know how welcoming they were to me. That has also made me want to be more welcoming to others who are not like me. I think that love for diversity is part of my military spouse experience. And then that longing for a family that is not blood, that comes
Mm.
from a genuine need. I mean, I was in Germany and my husband was deployed and I needed to have surgery. And, it wasn't a big enough surgery that I had to ask my parents to come out and help, but it was big enough that I needed someone to drive me to and from the thing and then stay with me overnight. I needed friends. Like I really needed friends. Not I wanted friends, not I wanted
Mm-hmm.
someone to go to dinner with me. I needed friends who were going to show up for me when I really needed someone to show up for me. And they didn't disappoint. They couldn't all leave their kids for the whole night, but there was one who took me, one who picked me up, one who spent the night. And I'm so thankful to this day for how my friends showed up for me when I really, truly needed them. I'm thankful for how goodness, sorry, but I don't talk about this stuff often because I'm not part of the military community as much as I used to be. But I'm just thinking about how after that surgery, my friends went above and beyond and they made sure they got a hold of my husband who was deployed and worried about me, but they wanted him to know I was okay. So they figured out how to get a hold of him in his unit and they made sure he knew I was okay. And that's the kind of stuff that people don't understand about the military community, how they're not just friends, they're your family when you're away from family. And I'm so thankful for those experiences. So thankful.
I mean, and here you are thinking about this years down the road, and those small acts make such a huge difference
They
in
do.
our lives. And having that kind of community is so valuable and what we really all crave. So let's make this really tactical. What have you learned about friendship? How do we begin to build these relationships?
First, and part of this I learned from you earlier, but first is to just be connected with yourself. You cannot, I mean, you can go out into the world not knowing who you are, but I think you're going to keep getting disappointed because you're going to come back with friends who aren't really well aligned with either who you are or where you're trying to go in life. So figure out who you are and what you want out of life. I think that's a really big thing. Another thing is get your mindset right. It's easy to sit and think, I mean, I don't want to discourage, I don't want to say this in the wrong way, but I'm just going to say it because I'm a blunt person. Like it's easy to sit around and say, woe is me. Woe is
Mm-hmm.
me. You got to shift your mindset a bit and be like, no, not woe is me. I deserve to have some friends. I need some friends, and I'm going to take the steps necessary to get out there and make some friends. The first is change your mindset. Then figure out like who are the people who are around you who like go somewhere new. Try something new. Don't keep doing the same stuff over and over again expecting something to be different. Do something different. Go a new place, try a new hobby, be a new something. Join a book club, do something that's a little bit different. Another thing I would say is don't limit yourself to just the circle that's around you right now. Maybe try reconnecting with some of the people who have been in your life previously. Maybe the season has changed, but maybe there's still an opportunity for you to re-engage with that person. Another thing, look at the relationships that feel superficial and think about how can I make it less superficial? How can we go a little bit deeper? Instead of like, oh, what movie are you watching? What show did you binge? Say, what show did you binge and which character do you relate most to? What did you get out of it? Why did you connect with that person? Ask the questions that aren't just on the level, but at the ones that get to the heart of who the person is. Another thing, be truly interested in other people. Everyone wants a good friend, but we have to be good friends. And you have to show interest in other people. It can't just be this monologue of, I want, I want, I want. And this is what happened to my day. People actually love people who are interested in them rather than people who are interesting themselves. So you may have this amazing life that you want to share with people all the time, but try flipping it and being interested in other people and see how that gets you just a little bit farther. Don't shy away from who you are, but just try being interested in others, a little more interested in others.
Yeah, I think one of the things that really helped me is when I started thinking about what qualities I wanted in a friend. What do I want a friend to say? What do I want a friend to do? How do I want a friend to show up and show that they care about me? And then let me turn that back on me. Is
Yes.
that how I'm showing up for the friends in my life? Am
Yes.
I encouraging them? Am I asking them questions about what they're doing and what they're interested in? Am I showing up as the friend that I really want? And once I started looking at that through the lens of what can I do, it shifted so much for me because
Everything.
it's easy to think about what we want others to do, how we want others to act, the actions we want others to take, but we can't control anybody else. The only thing that we can control is ourselves and how we respond. And when I like flipped that switch, it made such a huge difference in my life. So I'm really glad you brought that up. I would love to know if you have any things that you have learned, because you said something, and I think this is really important. Talking about taking a friendship deeper, because we all get in the room with people and we keep those surface level conversations. It's really easy to find those things like, let's talk about what the kids are doing, let's talk about the weather, let's talk about all these things. And so many people struggle to take conversations and bring them to a deeper level. So, what have you learned or experienced that has helped you take those conversations a little bit deeper?
For me, I don't start conversations thinking, let me say something deep. I just don't. but it's baby steps, you know? It's being honest. That's all it comes down to, just being honest. If someone says to you, "How's your day?" Be like, "You know what? I overslept and I didn't get to all the things I wanted to get to this morning. I yelled at the kids on the way out." Like, share whatever you want to share, but actually be honest. And I think that's where people are struggling. We're so conditioned to just be like, "It's fine, everything's good. Oh my goodness, everything's fine." Well, just that one little time, share something that is honest. I was at church yesterday and another woman came up to me and she was asking me all these questions. And I just was like, "I'm sorry. I'm being a little bit grumpy at the moment. Getting out the door this morning was not that easy with three kids trying to get to church on time." And she laughed and she sent me a message later, like, "Thanks for just being honest." And I didn't go into that moment like, let's have a deep moment, but it was just honest. But people remember those moments. And then when they're not having a good day, they feel more comfortable sharing that than if they had never heard you share something. It's when you break down that wall and you show that you're not entirely perfect. You don't have to share all of it. You don't have to share too much. Sometimes that's a little bit off-putting when you share it all on the first day. But start with those baby moments, those micro moments of vulnerability and honesty. That's where the deeper relationship starts. One other thing, if it's okay,
Mm-hmm.
with the relationships going deeper, be okay asking for and receiving help are a way to, like, they show vulnerability. And a lot of us don't want to do that, but that's where some of the best relationships are. And sometimes people are just waiting for an opportunity to be a blessing to someone else, and you don't even know it. Sometimes helping someone else is a blessing to them as well. Years ago, I worked from home and I had little kids at home, and one was at home unexpectedly. He was sick that day, and I had a really big meeting. And I was new to the community because military spouse always knew the community. But I had a really big meeting I couldn't cancel. And I knew there was a neighbor down the street who looked friendly. And I was just like, "I'm desperate. Can you watch my kid for an hour while I have this meeting? Just an hour in my house. Can you do it?" She ended up saying, "Thank you so much for just asking. Thank you so much for trusting me. Thank you for that bit of kindness." That was years ago. And now we're good friends. Like, we're very friendly with one another. But I didn't see I didn't see receiving help as an act of friendship initially. I thought it was like a me being weak and me being needy, but sometimes it's an act of friendship in and of itself. Just receiving help and then being able to offer it at some point.
Yeah, I think we get so worried that we're gonna someone else out that
Yeah.
we say, I can handle this. And this is so common in the military lifestyle because it's like this badge of honor to say, I did this myself.
Yep.
I powered through, I made it happen. But when we allow others to help us and when we can open ourselves up and say, let me help you, that opens the door for relationships, for friendships, for these bonds to really form. And all it takes is that opportunity to say, yes, I need help
Yes.
and I need to let somebody know that I need help. My spouse is gone, the kids are sick, I'm out of groceries, and I just need to tell my neighbor, hey, is there any way you can pick up something for me at the grocery store? And,
Right.
more often than not, they're like, yeah, let me do that. Let me help you out because that's how we build these relationships. So that's
Yeah.
so powerful. What would you say you have learned about friendship or yourself in this process of having a podcast on friendship? What's been the biggest learning point for you?
That's a good question. I think the biggest feeling overall, I don't know if it's something that I learned, but the biggest feeling is just one of joy. I started the podcast really truly wanting to reconnect with some of the people I had encountered as a military spouse, just wanting to say thank you. Thank you for blessing my life. And I wasn't prepared for how much joy that process would bring me. Just going back and some of the relationships, like we talked on episodes and then I didn't talk to them again. Some other relationships, like we've stayed in touch since the episodes. But I wasn't prepared for how much joy it would bring to my life to just see some of these ladies again and talk to them again. And even talking to you, going down memory lane and thinking about my life as a military spouse. I didn't think I was going to tear up talking about it. I mean, but here I am. It's just so much joy and so much gratitude for these special people in my life. I know that some of us are tempted to think like if I just get the better job and if I just get the better house and if we can just stop moving and I can be stable and you have this long list of things that would make your life better. But if you just stop and look, you can see it's not bad now, you know? And I'm not saying people aren't struggling and there aren't hardships, but
Mhm.
if you have solid people in your life, like just one solid person, just two solid people, that's a blessing. And there's room for gratitude and there's so much joy if we can just stop and be grateful and stop and be joyful. Choose it right now. Like just choose to be grateful for those people and choose to have joy right now. So that's what I wasn't prepared for those feelings.
Yeah, it really is finding joy in the moment because whatever you are looking for, you're going to find. The circumstances may not be great. It might not be a great assignment. It might not be great for your career, or you might have all those things and you still might feel lonely, right?
Yeah.
Because loneliness is, the former Surgeon General called loneliness an epidemic. This is something that a lot of us struggle with, but there are always opportunities wherever you're at when you start to look for them. And so when we start to look for ways that we can find gratitude for where we're at and find joy in the moment where we're at it, and we start to figure out, how do I show up as my authentic self and communicate that to others? We're opening the door for those relationships. So, Cecilia, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I loved having this conversation. I know friendship is something on the hearts and minds of so many military spouses. So, would you just share about how we can connect with you and your podcast?
Absolutely. First of all, thanks for having me. If any of your listeners want to check me out, it's the Heart of Friendship podcast. And you can also come to my website. It's ceciliacurtis.com. And my name is spelled a little differently. So it's Cecelia Curtis, Curtis.com.
There was so much good in this conversation. So before we wrap up, let's recap a few of the powerful takeaways from today's conversation. First, meaningful friendships don't require permanence. Some people are meant to be in your life for a season, and that's okay because those seasons still matter. Number two, deep connection doesn't start with big emotional moments. It starts with honesty, vulnerability, curiosity, and being willing to share a real answer instead of, I'm fine. Third, friendship grows when we stop waiting for others to show up for us and we start asking how we can show up for others by being interested, asking deeper questions, and allowing ourselves to both give and receive help. And finally, military friendships aren't just nice to have, they're often essential. They become our family. When family is far away, they remind us that even in constant change, we don't have to do life alone. Cecilia, thank you so much for this honest and meaningful conversation. And if you're listening today, if friendship has felt hard or discouraging, I hope this episode reminds you that connection is still possible right where you are. If building deep friendships feels harder than it should, I have created the Military Spouse Connection Toolkit, which is a practical resource to help you meet new people, navigate conversations, and build meaningful connections. You can download it for free by clicking the link in the show notes or going to morethanamilspouse.com. I hope you have an amazing week. I will be back again with you soon. Until then, may you live filled, fueled, and full of joy. Hey, amazing Milspouse. Before you go, I want you to know that I love hearing from you. The More Than a Milspouse community exists to help you thrive as a military spouse. Figure out what lights your heart on fire and empower you to live with purpose and impact. You can have an incredible impact simply by heading over to iTunes to subscribe and leave a review. But your impact doesn't stop there. You can empower those around you simply by sharing an episode with a friend or neighbor, someone who needs a little encouragement in this military life. And if this episode was meaningful to you, spread the love by taking a screenshot of this episode and tagging me on Instagram so we can continue to reach more people, change more lives, and shift the way that military spouses look at life. Because we are better together. Together, we can change the world. Let's do it.